Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah. In today's video, we are going to do a concealer battle. So several months ago, Jackie AINA posted a video why your concealer game sucks, and there are quite a bit of steps to it, but her under eyes looked flawless, so I thought maybe this is something I need to try out. So I'm going to be testing out her method on one side of my face and my normal boring method on the other side of my face to see if it really does make a difference and if it's worth all the time and all of the products and steps that go into it. All of the brands she used were higher end, but I am a drugstore girl, so all of the products I'm using today are going to be either from the drugstore or really affordable. But I tried to match up the type of products that she described so that I could get something close to what I already have or something that I could buy at an affordable price. So as I'm filming, I'm going to be watching her video and doing it step by step as she instructs. If you are excited for this video, make sure you give it a like or a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more like this. Just as a disclaimer, I'm not going to be nearly as entertaining as Jackie is because she has such an interesting, distinct personality. Like, I could watch her talk about Tupperware for 30 minutes. So I'm sorry I'm not as entertaining, but bear with me. Okay, the first step that she does is she primes the under eye using an eye balm. I didn't have one, so I went to the drugstore and got this Physicians Formula Cucumber and Bamboo Eye Depuffer and Hydrator. It's not the same texture as hers. Hers is more fluffy, but it says hydrating and it's what I can work with. This is more of like a lip balm type consistency, so it's not like I can get a lot of product off at once. Just gonna do that. So that felt really good going on. My under eyes feel hydrated. The next step is to apply your foundation like normal. So I'm gonna go in with my Mila. This is what I have to deal with. Oh my God. So I'm gonna go in with my AOA Satin Buildable Foundation. Okay, so I only put on a light layer of foundation. Now moving on to concealers, she says that you will need 3 for this process. For the first concealer, Jackie says to use a maximum coverage foundation, whatever you have that is the most full coverage. However, the one she uses has a red undertone, and I don't really have any concealers with a red undertone, but I do have this peach corrector from LA Colors that I was going to add into my concealer. As you can see, it is quite a different shade than my concealer. So I'm gonna take just a tiny bit of that and mix it in with my concealer just to change it up a little bit. Now she applies her concealer with a flat brush because it's in a pot. I want to stick as close to her method as possible, so that's what I'm gonna be doing. I think this is just like a flat brush by Eco Tools. And the concealer I'm using today is the Light Illusion Full Coverage Concealer by Flower Beauty. So I'm gonna take that, and she says start right at the tear duct and then just bring it down. One thing she says is not to go too far past the eye. That doesn't really work with this method. I let that dry down for just a little bit, and now I'm gonna go in with my Real Technique sponge. So now I'm just gonna go in and start patting it in. Now she gives a lot of good tips in this video about how to blend, like don't overblend it and don't swipe. Both things I am guilty of. If I have a concealer that isn't looking especially great underneath my eyes, I just keep on blending in with a sponge because I just get like so paranoid, like, oh, like I just keep going and going, hoping that the more I blend it out, the better it's gonna look. And it never turns out that way, but so that is mostly blended out. And then she takes the sponge and gets really close to the eye. A few pats there. So already it's looking quite better than the other side, obviously with no product on. I'm gonna wait to start the concealer on my method side of my face because it's one step and I don't want it to be completely set down when I still have to do a bunch of steps on this side. Man, I'm looking ghostly and extra rough today. For the next layer of concealer, I'm gonna be using a highlight shade. This is the CoverGirl TruBlend Undercover in Fair Ivory. I'm gonna be applying this with a brush as well just to stick with the theme. Do the same thing, start in the tear duct, bring it down, and she brings it down a little bit further. Now I am also going to let this one dry down quite a bit. She says that she lets it dry down to where it's like almost set, and she used a fan. So I'm gonna be using my Dollar Tree fan and try and get it to dry a little bit. I do sometimes let my concealer dry down, but not for this long. It's usually just so I can do like one eyebrow and then I'll go out and blend them and do my other eyebrow. So this does worry me a tiny bit. Go in with the same sponge, start at the outer eye, and using patting motions, not swiping motions like I usually do. Okay, I can already tell that is much better coverage than I usually get with this concealer. Okay, that does look quite bright underneath my eyes, but we are going to go in with another corrector shade. Also, like, dude, the difference, my face looks drastically different. The difference between a concealed under eye and then this, it's just like two different people. I'd honestly be happy with just this because it's more coverage than I'm used to, but we have another liquid concealer step. I almost forgot, she also applies concealer to her face. I don't usually do that, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to. She does like a little wide arch here and a little bit here. Okay, I mean, that looks good, I think. Actually, now that I'm looking at my face, I do have some redness right here, so I'm going to put a little bit there, hopefully correct some of that. I get a lot of redness in this area of my face, like on my nose, around my nose, and just like right here. Like I get red where you typically have smile lines. All right, for the next concealer, she says to use one that has sort of an orange undertone. This is the closest that I have to an orange undertone. It's the Be Bright Illuminating Concealer by Kokie, and I think this is just their lightest shade. I'm gonna take that on the flat brush again. Just do the same thing. As I'm waiting for that to dry down, I'm going to go to the next step. She uses what looks like a contouring concealer. I don't really contour, but I do have this by AOA. It's their Sculpt Fixed Contour Stick, and I'm just basically do what she did. Now I'm going to take this e.l.f. foundation blurring brush, and I'm just going to blend that into the concealer and foundation. Now I'm going to go in and blend out that concealer. So there's not such a harsh line right here where there's the highlight and then the foundation on my nose. She takes the brush without putting any extra product on and just doing that, so it kind of blends in together. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better. In the video, she says this next step is optional, but I'm gonna do it to go in with the orangey concealer that we just used and go in with the highlight concealer. Just a little bit, just tap in each concealer, and then to go not very far down, just add a little bit. We're gonna blend that with the same sponge. I'm gonna take the other side of the sponge and just try and diffuse that line of the highlight. We're not done yet. She also says to go back in with the brush you used to contour and your foundation and use that to blend out those lines as well. All right, we are finally done with the concealers. As you can tell, quite a difference. Before I do powder, I am going to apply concealer how I would normally do it on my eyes. Now, sometimes I will take just one shade, especially if I am in a hurry or before I have to go to work. I'll just do one, blend it out, call it a day. But sometimes I also will use two shades. However, I normally put them on both at once. I don't blend one out, let it dry down, blend the other one out. I also don't really have a preferred method of application. Like sometimes I will do dots, sometimes I will do little like stuff like that. Honestly, it depends on how I'm feeling that day, if I'm feeling lazy, if I'm in a hurry. So what I just laid down was my highlight shade. And also go in with the darker shade, put that next to it. Also, I never said that my method was a good method, so don't come for me. And then I just try and pat those together and blend those out. And if I am being fully transparent, I do usually blend it out further from my eye. Usually that's just because I put on too much concealer and I'm looking for places to put it. So obviously this side is a lot brighter because I do usually use more highlight shade. My eyes are normally two different shapes, but I feel like the way that I applied concealer on each eye really emphasizes how different they are. All right, now we are moving into powders. Now, you're gonna need two powders, one that is closer to your skin shade and then one that is lighter. For my lighter shade, I'm going to be using the Coty Airspun in Translucent. And then for the overall powder, I'm going to be using the CYO powder. So you first go in with the shade that you will use all over your face, and then just start blending that in all over your face. Now she says definitely don't use too much because powder can just ruin all of the work you did for your concealer. I don't usually apply powder like that with a sponge, and I accidentally did on my version side, so my bad. And then I'm gonna take that powder and put it a little bit under my eye. Just blend that out. So what I normally do for setting my under eyes is I will take this brush. It's just like a small brown brush from Sephora. I will go in with a translucent powder and just pat a little bit of that underneath my eye. And then I'll go in with a face brush and use that same powder and just pat that in, and we're done. And then on a normal day, this would be done, no more powdering. I'd move on to my eyebrows and my eye makeup. For the other side, we are gonna go in with the lighter powder. Take a little bit, she stamps some off on her hand so you don't get too much. And then I'm going to stamp that underneath my eye and just press that in. Okay, for the next and final step, I'm going to be taking this all over highlight powder brush from Complex Culture, go into the translucent powder. I'm going to use a setting spray, but she says to spray the air and then swipe your brush through it. Don't spray it directly on the brush because that'll just ruin the process, I guess. And she says to just very, very lightly, like barely touching your under eye, put that underneath your eye. We're gonna do a little bit more patting in just to make sure everything is, and there we have it. I feel like from far away, you may not be able to tell that there's a difference, but when I'm up close, you can tell this eye just looks a lot more awake. Like you can definitely see more darkness and discoloration underneath my eye. It looks more puffy. It just definitely looks more tired than this eye does. The finish also looks a lot better on this side. I think it really helps to use a sponge to pat in the powder and then the brush, because on this side, you can definitely tell it looks drier, a little bit more crusty. I don't think the product gets as pushed in and blended into the skin using the brush that I've been using. And that is a problem that I usually have, and I will typically just spray some setting spray and try and pat it out more because it's just like emergency trying to fix it. I'm going to finish up the rest of my makeup, let my battery charge because it's about to die, and see how these look once I have all of my makeup on. I did very minimal makeup today. To warm up my face, I use the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. For blush, I use the Ulta brand Flush Blush in Prosecco. For brows, I used my favorite Ulta Ultra Slim Brow Pencil in Brunette. I didn't feel like doing highlight, eyeshadow, or eyeliner, but I did do mascara. This is the Sephora Lash Craft Big Volume I got in an Ipsy bag. In the meantime, I sent my friend a Snapchat saying I was trying out 2 different concealer methods and asked which one she thought would be best. So if she doesn't respond while I'm filming this, I will put what she decided right here. I said this side was number 1 and this side was number 2, and she chose. I always forget about lips. For lips, I use the Jelly Pong Pong Lip Oil in Cherry Tomato. Okay, when I look in the mirror, I don't see a drastic difference between both eyes. When I really go in and look for the darkness, I can tell that it looks better on this side. More darkness is coming through on this side. I don't know if the camera's gonna be able to pick it up, but I feel like I'm getting deeper creasing on this side. Like I crease underneath my eyes no matter what. They definitely look more deep and stark on this eye than on this side. The finish also looks a lot better on this side. I can see right here, it's almost as if the powder wipes off or something. It's a common issue that I have where like right in that kind of eye dip, the powder won't stick as well and it'll look like a different texture. While I do prefer this side of my face and I think it looks more smooth and flawless, or as flawless as my face can get, I don't know how realistic this method is. It did take me quite a bit of time. It's a lot of steps, requires a lot of products. So realistically, I'm not gonna be doing this in the morning before I have to go to work. This might be a nice method to do if I'm going out at night, if I have a wedding or an event to go to that I want to look a little bit extra put together. But on the day-to-day, it's a lot. I did learn a lot from her video though, swipe or no swiping. So those are things I'm going to take and put into my everyday routine. I'm also going to be applying my under eye powder with a firm sponge from now on because the difference it makes using a sponge and with the brush I normally use, for me, it's drastic enough. And it's not really gonna take much more time than it does for me to use the brush. So Jackie, you might be onto something. Your tips and tricks, while they are long and extensive, they work. that is it for today's video. I'm obviously going to link Jackie's video in the description box below because it is so informative and it's just great. I will also be listing the products that I used today in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for your support, and I will hopefully see you in my next video.